Good afternoon everyone, my name's Tash and I'm one of the platypus keepers here at Healesville Sanctuary, and Wunjika and welcome to Platypus Creek. And when the platypus was actually first discovered by the early European settlers, they actually thought it was a hoax. They thought it was so unusual in appearance, looking creature, that surely it couldn't be real, it must have been made up. Well, they actually thought that maybe it had been sewn together from the parts of many different animals. But I'm sure that everybody here this afternoon knows that that is not the case. Now today, I would also like to tell you all a story that's going to take us on a bit of a journey from our skies across our mountains to our oceans and our rivers, and to a real life issue which is actually facing all of the wildlife which call the water home. Now many of you here this afternoon might not even be aware that this issue even exists, but it can even start in your very own backyards when you might be celebrating with your friends. So this issue that I'm talking about is that lots of our animals here at Platypus Creek, or animals out in the wild as well, whether it be the freshwater waterways or our oceans, they do a lot of searching for their food in these waterways. And when they're doing this, they can commonly come across something which looks like food to them, but it really doesn't belong there. Now, does anybody here this afternoon want to have a guess at what I might be talking about? I'll throw a little hand shoot up in the front here. Balloons! Very good, I didn't even have to give you the extra hint. So I do want to talk about balloons this afternoon. Now I'm sure everyone would agree that they're quite common at birthday parties or outdoor events and things like this, and pretty harmless, most people might be initially thinking. But I am going to ask you this afternoon to think again about balloons, because when they're actually released outdoors into our skies, they do float off and they end up in our oceans and our rivers. And unfortunately they don't end there. Rubbish from balloons is actually the most common item of rubbish which can be found in the stomachs of seabirds. And unfortunately what this means is that when balloons fly, it actually causes our seabirds to die. And we think that surely there must be better ways that we can celebrate at those outdoor events. And we'd like to take a closer look at this issue before I introduce you to our beautiful platypus here this afternoon. So there's now going to be a short segment that will play on that great big screen, which I'm sure everyone can spot up there behind me, in just a few minutes' time. I would like to introduce you to someone that I'm sure everyone here this afternoon has really come here to see, and that is our beautiful platypus. So I do have someone very special for you to meet here this afternoon. In the tank we have one of our female platypus. She's a 10-year-old female platypus, and her name is Ember. And Ember was actually born here at Healesville Sanctuary, and she emerged from her mum's burrow on the day of the Black Saturday bushfires. So some of you that aren't too aware of these wildfires, there were some wildfires that were quite close to the sanctuary, so close in fact that we did have to evacuate quite a number of our animals. And on what was a bit of a frantic day for us here at the sanctuary, we had the lovely sighting of Ember emerging from her burrow for the very first time as a young baby platypus. So with little bits of ash and Ember falling all around her enclosure, we gave her the name Ember. Now we do actually have a total of 8 platypus here at the sanctuary. 6 females and 2 males, and Ember here is definitely our most shy platypus, I was just going to say, but it looks like she's been a little bit bold this afternoon. Well done, Ember, with so many people. So it's actually taken her about 3 years just to feel comfortable to come out into this arena space, and about 1.5 years to build up the courage to feed from the palm of my hand. So you might have seen she couldn't resist this afternoon. She came up for some of that food. So on the palm of my hand you might see some nice slimy worms. Anybody else hungry here this afternoon? No, everyone's feeling nice and full with all the food from One Wildlife. It's alright, I don't blame you. But this food item is a little aquatic worm. It's known as black worms. They're very slimy, they're very wriggly, but they're definitely one of Ember's favourite food items. So we like to compare these items to like the equivalent of platypus chocolate. So as you can see, Ember couldn't resist the platypus chocolate. She's already come up to the surface for some. But yeah, as you are looking at Ember here, you can probably understand why those early Europeans thought that platypus weren't real. Because when you're looking at Ember, you will notice that she has got a bill that's similar to a duck's bill, but it is quite soft and quite rubbery to touch. She does have extremely soft fur as well, and she actually has something in common with everybody here this afternoon. And that is that she is a mammal, just like us, but she is a special kind of mammal, an egg-laying mammal. This is what's known as a monotreme. So we've just got the platypus and the echidna that are our monotreme species that are found here in Australia. Now, we do also have a successful breeding program. Of course, Ember's one of our young platypus that we've had born here at the sanctuary. But over the years, we've actually had 10 baby platypus born here, including a few sets of twins as well, which is also very exciting. And during the breeding season, the male and the female actually do quite a romantic courtship dance. And this involves them coming up to the surface of the water, and they gently bite onto the end of each other's tails, and then they swim around in a circular motion on the surface of the water. Now once this romantic courtship dance is complete and the female has become pregnant, she will then burrow underground. And it's nice and dry underground, so she's able to rear her young off her milk there until they're able to look after themselves. Now, believe it or not, Ember here is actually top of the food chain here at Platypus Creek, so this ferocious looking predator, I'm sure we're all feeling terrified. In the wild, platypus will feed on a range of different invertebrates, and some of the things that we do feed our platypus here at the sanctuary, we give them things like earthworms and mealworms, fly pupae. Also keep your eye out for our platypus that are on display. You see lots of yabbies in there as well, which is definitely one of their favourite food items. And as I mentioned earlier, I've got the nice slimy worms, literally a few hundred slimy worms sitting on the palm of my hand, so some of you might not be jealous of my job at this point in time. But it is, of course, one of Amber's favourite food items. So if she chooses to, she can come and feed on those ones. Now, platypus, of course, can feed from the surface of the water, like you saw what Amber was doing earlier. But you may have all noticed that she is doing a lot of diving underneath the surface of the water, right down to the bottom as she searches for her food. I can feel her tickling my toes there at the moment. Now, every time that you're actually seeing her dive underneath that water, she is actually holding her breath. She closes her eyes and her ears, and she actually uses little electroreceptors which are located on her soft bill, and that's so that she can sense where she's going with her eyes closed underneath that water, and also so that she can locate her food as well. So you can see her moving her bill from side to side. Any of those little worms that have slipped through my fingers, she's collecting them up into her mouth at the moment, and then you'll see her grinding up that food item when she comes up to the surface of the water. Now, there is also one other really interesting thing about platypus, and that actually doesn't have anything to do with Ember here, because she is a female, but it has to do with our male platypus. And that is that all male platypus are actually venomous. So if you're looking at their back legs, kind of connected to the ankle, there's a short spur there, and it connects to a venom gland. And the males can use these spurs as a weapon to defend their territory, or particularly during that breeding season as well. The idea is the strongest and the toughest male will win a breeding territory, with lots of females within it. And although that venom is not life-threatening to people if you were spurred by a male, it is excruciatingly painful, so I would not recommend it. Now, Ember here has been a little bit shy, even though she's come up for a bit of a feed, but she definitely has a playful side. And one of her most favourite things to play with is actually bubbles. So some of you may have seen that at the start of the show I had a little screen of bubbles which was actually running right along the front of the tank. And you may have noticed Ember come across and she likes to pop the bubbles with her bill. Sometimes she does dive down through them and does little somersaults in those bubbles as well. And if you've been watching her very carefully, some of you may have seen that when she's actually diving underneath the surface of the water, there's kind of little air bubbles that come off the back of her fur there. Now those bubbles don't actually have anything to do with breathing like you might be thinking when you see them, or perhaps there's something else that pops into your minds when you see bubbles appearing from that area. Some of you are thinking it, yeah. Well, there are actually pockets of air that do get trapped between her thick layers of fur, and actually keep her warm and dry when she is submerged in that water. When she quickly dives down through that water, they're actually released from her fur there. Now I think that little Ember here is actually onto something with bubbles. She loves playing with them and she produces bubbles as well. So I would love to see a show of hands. Who in the audience here this afternoon, I know there's lots of adults here today, but who also thinks like Ember that bubbles are great fun to play with? Oh, that's a pretty good show of hands, nice. But I've noticed not everyone's raised their hand this afternoon, so I think we're going to have to convince you. So we're going to release some bubbles into the arena, and then hopefully they're going to float down and rain down onto everyone. And then the rest of you will be convinced that bubbles are great fun, because we think that bubbles are a great substitute for something you can use instead of balloons at those outdoor events or outdoor birthday parties. These bubbles are actually safe for all of our wildlife, including our beautiful seabirds and also our platypus as well. And hopefully when the wind's blowing the right direction, you guys will get to all enjoy them. But of course, each and every one of you that is here this afternoon, you can be part of the solution by simply making a switch to using something like bubbles. Here we go, they're coming across, which are great fun instead of balloons. And you can make the switch by simply pledging to do so on your way out from Platypus Creek here this afternoon. Now, Ember and myself would like to thank everybody for coming along to see our platypus presentation here. And I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day here at the sanctuary. Thanks, guys. And of course, don't be shy. If you want to come on down and have a nice close-up look at Ember, it's pretty cool to see a